Well, I'm joined by Antigua's top sports presenter. He fronts up the main sports program in Antigua, required viewing, and he's with us now. Vernon Springer joins us. Good evening, Vernon.
Hey, good evening to you, David. How are you?
Really good. Thank you for seeing you, Vernon. You're I think, the best cricket correspondent in the Caribbean. You're based in Antigua. You must have a really interesting perspective on that last test match. What's your view of what happened in the first test, very briefly?
Well, first of all, I would just like to also give congratulations to Sir Jimmy Anderson for a remarkable, stellar career, finishing with 704 test wickets, and also to Michael Louis, the first Kittian cricketer from the island of the Twin Island state of St. Kitts and Nevis to play for the West Indies, even though we would have had Joey Benjamin, who was born in St. Kitts, who played for England. So I want to just give Michael Louis really commendation on his achievement and his elevation, and joining a whole list of other players from the Caribbean who would have come to the St. Kitts and Nevis 13 and under tournament. So it was pretty interesting to see Michael Louis opening with Craig Brathwaite. Craig Brathwaite, one of the graduates from that St. Kitts Nevis 13 and under tournament. So that was a fitting moment for him. It's taken St. Kitts 96 years to produce their first test player. Amazing. And hopefully his brother, Jeremiah Louis, will join in the procession. In terms of the question that you asked very quickly, David.
I'll just say, Vernon, just to interject for a second, because I think our listeners will be, our viewers will remember, and I say this with some satisfaction, that I recommended watching out for Michael Louis in my podcast last week. I said it especially to punters who are looking to bet on the highest scoring batsman. I said it's the highest scorer in regional first class cricket last season. This man. And if we were applying that in England, it would be the Jamie Smith, who just missed out by 2 runs to be England's top batsman. But enough, that's history. Vern, in terms of looking ahead to the coming match, how do you see the West Indies coming back and coming back into the series here? Because they often do nick a test match, but can you see this West Indies team doing that, Vern?
Well, they're quite capable on any given day. It's just a matter of confidence for the batsmen to really knuckle down and get some runs. Michael Louis, on his test debut, he did bat for over a good period of time. So I think that would have been encouraging signs. I think the West Indies is also worried about their test captain's form. And normally he's the guy who really is the driving force behind the West Indies test team. He's really not had a good series from Australia leading up to England now. So let's hope that he can be able to get some runs behind him. Jason Holder coming back into the team as well. His batting is really going to be centered around. And I think once the batsman gets some confidence, the bowling is not an issue. I think it's the batsman really adapting very quickly to English conditions.
Who do you think's most likely to make that adaptation? You know, who's your pick of the West Indies bats in the first innings of this next test? Highest scoring batsman. Who would you go for?
Well, I'll say to you very quickly, I would make some changes. I'd like to see a Tevin Imlach coming in for Kurt McKenzie. I really think Imlach had a really good, fantastic 4-day regional season, and he should be given an opportunity to.
From which island is Imlach, the reserve keeper?
He's from Guyana. He's on this tour as a reserve wicketkeeper.
So he's Guyana's first choice wicketkeeper.
Yes.
Well, that's a great tradition. One thinks of Ridley Jacobs.
No, Ridley Jacobs is from the Leewards.
Oh.
Imlach coming from Guyana, you would have seen maybe the likes of people like Milton Padano. That would have been like a long time ago. But I'm talking in the context of the team right now. I think Kurt McKenzie is pretty lucky to be still in this West Indies team. And there really has to be some drastic changes going forward. I'm also very much concerned about the bowling form of Shamar Joseph, having not played any red ball cricket from since Australia. And I also have to take a little swipe at Cricket West Indies, David. They really didn't pay attention to the test team. Everybody was so concentrating on the West Indies white ball squad that somebody forgot the test team. And I want to give credit to Jimmy Adams, who credibly would have been able to organize the first leg of the tour, which was because he was around the Kent setup. But
Right.
had the team maybe got to England a lot more earlier, I thought they would have been able to be more competitive in England. So let's hope and
Well,
see that
indeed.
the
Just
turnaround will
on
be
Jimmy's
quicker.
behalf, they did have a couple of weeks at Tunbridge School where they had a camp, also in Kent, and also arranged by Jimmy Adams. So they did have more preparation than people are giving them credit for. But it's the step up from the team that the ECB put out, the under-19s team in the warm-up match. Now suddenly you're facing Jimmy Anderson and for a bit of light relief, Gus Atkinson. And he blasted through, didn't he? 12 wickets. So do you see Gus Atkinson coming hard again at West Indies? Are they going to have any answer to him? He got, 12 wickets in his first debut. Do you see him coming again as the main bowler that the West Indies will be worried about?
They have to play what's in front of them. And I thought in the first test match, the West Indies were still feeling that they were in the Caribbean playing shots. In England, you're going to have to graft. You have to systematically come up with Jeff Boycott's innings. And we saw Louis at some point in time trying to be able to adopt that. At the same time, you also have to rotate the strike. And I don't think the West Indian batsmen rotated the strike enough. They were batting for longer periods. Athanas got in and then just got out. In England, David, you got to look to play the ball up the V for longer periods of time. Athanas still looking to play the ball square. A lot of the West Indian batsmen looking to play the ball square. You can't play the ball square in England. You got to look to play the ball up in front of you, and you got to rotate the strike, and you have to grab.
Athanas has been a disappointment. You know, he looks like he could get out at any moment. Another weak point. Look, that leads me on, Vernon, to a talking point over here. And we don't necessarily know all the facts of what's happening in the Caribbean, and you do. But people here, particularly in the Sunday Times, Simon Wilde wrote a piece saying, why don't West Indies pick their strongest team? We've had enough of this. And he was referring to the likes of Nicholas Purran, Shea Hope, Carl Mayers, Brandon King, these Shimron Hetmeyer, Shafane Rutherford, the list goes on, of guys who have proven at international level at white ball. And because they're not playing a damn first-class match, they're not picking them. Look, on that basis, Joss Butler would never have got into the England team. He didn't play any first-class cricket. Why are West Indies clinging to an outdated selection policy, qualification policy?
Well, I'll say to you, David, that most of the names that you would have called, for some strange reason, when you look around in terms of world cricket and the future of Test cricket, it's a chicken and egg situation where most players at their point in time of their age in their career, they're thinking about finances. And when you look around, West Indies maybe might only play, David, 6 test matches per year. And Nicholas Purran, he can play in about 6 to 8 T20 leagues or T10 leagues around the world, and he's going to be able to make money. So a lot of players, as much as they want to feel that they want to play test cricket, whenever the format or the situation pops up, they're going to choose the white ball format over test cricket. A lot of folks, for some particular reason, feel that test cricket is long and boring. And the amount of test matches that you maybe play per year, why not just go off in the sunset and play white ball cricket, where you'll be able to make your money? It's unfortunate, David, that we've got a lot of players like Hope and Kyle Mayers and company who we think are capable enough of getting into the test team. But from a Caribbean journalist perspective, those guys are not interested in playing test cricket. They're interested in playing white ball cricket. They're interested in jogging around the world and making money.
That is the conventional narrative, and I understand that. But, my critique, also I'd like to make a point against West Indies Cricket Board as well, is what they're failing to do is to build relationships with these players such that they can talk these things through. And so, if you like, sell them the benefits of succeeding in all formats, and talk about the likes of Jimmy Anderson with the ball or Joe Root with the bat. There's plenty of people, Virat Kohli. These guys are playing all formats, and the first-class game is helping to improve their batting. Look at the guys that only play T20. They never quite succeed. Anyway, we're going off on a tangent, Vernon, but a very nice one. So thank you for answering that. Finally, your prediction for this test match, how do you see it?
The toss is going to be critical in England for this young West Indies team. It's unfortunate that in the last test match there that they had to bat first. It'll be interesting to see how they if they get an opportunity to bowl first. And I think also the bowlers are also going to have to be patient. England is not a place where it's like Australia, where you're running in hard and you're going after the batsman. You're going to have to be consistently landing the ball in the right areas.
Yeah.
I don't think that the West Indian bowlers were patient enough in the last Test match. They still felt like they were in Australia.
As an Antiguan, a man of the Leeward Islands, Alzari Joseph must have disappointed you with his 6 and over, 12 overs for 100 or something in a low-scoring game. I mean, you must have been. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's life. Cricket is life, and I'm really not disappointed about Alzari's performance. I know he's bowling at quick pace, and when you're bowling at quick pace, you're going to be expensive. Right. So that's something that we have to take into consideration.
So, the next test, it's Nottingham, starts on Thursday. It's going to be the West Indies are 1-0 down. You're saying bring Imlach in, the reserve keeper actually on this tour, the Guyana keeper, bring him in place of who you taking out?
Kirk Mackenzie.
Kirk Mackenzie. Yes, who doesn't look the part. And you're bringing in Jeremiah Louis, the fellow Petition, brother of Mikhail, to replace Shamar Joseph, or would you bring Kevin Sinclair in, the somersault off spinner?
Well, I think that I don't think that the West Indies coaching staff, Andrew Coley and Jimmy Anderson and company, will play 2 spinners in England. I think more or less Morty will be the number 1 spinner. And if anything, if Shamar Joseph is not ready, even though I'm hearing that he bowled something today, I could see Jeremiah Louis really getting an opportunity. He swings the ball both ways, David. And if you get an opportunity to see him, I think he'll be a handful in England.
I agree with that. I saw him in the warm-up match at Beckenham, organised by Jimmy Adams, against a select 11, under 19 11. He looked really sharp, moving it very accurate. Nice guy as well. I bumped into him at Lord's and said he should be in this team. And he smiled knowingly. I think he's got a lot of confidence. Brother of Mikhail, who had a great test match, as we said, with top scoring in the first innings, looking the part, big, tall, opening batsman. This is his brother, who could play in the starting lineup and would be good value to look at him in terms of top wicket taker and performance and all that. So, it's going to be fascinating. I think Mikhail Louis is going to go in again as top scoring West Indies batsman. I really do. For England, who do you fear? Who are the bowlers least like to bowl to? Joe Root, Harry Brook, Zach Crawley. Who's really impressed you, Vernon?
Well, I like the look of Jamie Smith.
Yes.
And age 23 years old, he's really one for the future. He's really played 59 first-class games, and that's what I was really much concerned about. 10 centuries and 14 half centuries. So he's got some appetite. So when you compare him with a Mikhail Louis, who is 23 years old, and to see Louis in his first season scoring 680 odd runs, I guess it's chalk to cheese. Again, it comes down to the formation and how much cricket these guys are playing. Now, let's compare somebody to like a Jamie Smith, who has played 59 first-class games, to Mikhail Louis playing 7 first-class games in just his first season. You realize where the gap is.
And the gap's growing as long as that disparity is there. Vernon, you've been quite outspoken in the Caribbean about how unfair it is, the low-level playing field for the West Indies and the smaller nations. You've advocated going to the ICC with the case, going to the individual boards. Why isn't England doing more to support West Indies? When I was at Channel 4, I stuck a few thousand pounds actually into a camp for Jamaican cricketers. Chris Gale and Marlon Samuels were in that camp. And we flew over the great Bobby Simpson, the Australian coach. He wrote individual reports on each player. And I was called in front of the Channel 4 television board, and they said, "What's all this? £5,000 check, the Jamaican Cricket Association youth camp. You're here to promote English cricket, not West Indies cricket." I said, "Well, we need someone to play against." I mean, you can't just have. We need meaningful opposition, and we're denying resources. I agree with you. The disparity in the number of first-class matches, the disparity in resources. We need to see more West Indians in the interim playing county cricket. I'd love to see the ECB open up an initiative for young West Indian players. But
David, it is more than the England and Wales Cricket Board. It also has to do with the Home Office, because originally, 30 years ago, you had a number of players from the Caribbean who came across to England to play cricket. The Home Office has since changed the rules. You have to play 5 first-class games to be able to get into a proper county team. So how many of those guys are going to be able to get an opportunity to be able to play 5 proper first-class games and then get a stint to be able to play in England? So the Home Office has to relax some of the rules where you allow some of the West Indian cricketers to be able to grow their game. If not, I'm very much concerned, David, as to the future of Test cricket. Because as it looks right now, Test cricket is only just being featured between England, India, and Australia. The other countries like Afghanistan and Zimbabwe, they're going to be suffering. They're going to be behind. West Indies maybe
Pakistan, South Africa, South Africa, New Zealand. They're all struggling alongside Afghanistan, Ireland. They're all struggling. Everyone outside the big 3. South Africa is struggling. Everyone is outside of the big 3. They attempted to hijack the game 10 years ago and they were rumbled, but they're still clinging on to it. I think India needs to do a lot more to support other countries, Anyway, back to this Test match, Vernon. We must not going off at a tangent. Who you see, you talk about Jamie Smith as the batsman. Who's the wicket taker for England in this Test match, do you think?
Well, the obvious thing would be that with England bringing in Mark Wood into their team, they're looking to be able to starting to exploit the situation and figure out they want to send a message to Australia for the Ashes 2024, 2025. And if they can be ruthless against a West Indies team with the strength of their bowling in England, they maybe just want to send some shivers down in Australia. But I think that the West Indies team, if they can just get their act together, if Alzarri Joseph on any given day can be able to pick up 4 or 5 wickets, it's an England team, David, that if they don't play well, they could very well find themselves getting bowled out cheaply. Because if they continue with this style of playing baseball cricket, you could get nicked off for about 100 and add and maybe just lose the Test match. So we'll wait and see.
We wait and see. Thursday, second Test from Trent Bridge, second of 3. And I'm with Vernon Springer from Antigua. Now, Vernon, before we go, I want you to talk about the exciting news that I know you're involved with this, the new Antigua franchise in the Caribbean Premier League, replacing the Jamaica Talawars. Tell us about the squad that you've assembled.
Well, first of all, Worldwide Sports Management Corporation, owned by Chris Prasad and manager and CEO Jeff Miller, has got the blessings of the government of Antigua and Barbuda for the new franchise, the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. It's also rich to say that all of the 4 sirs, including national hero of Antigua and Barbuda, Sir Vivian Isaac Alexander Richards, Dr. Sir Andy Roberts, Dr. Sir Richie Richardson, and soon to be Dr. Sir Curtly Ambrose, are all ambassadors. In fact, Sir Curtly Ambrose is the assistant coach, along with Shivna and Shanda Paul, of the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons.
What a great team.
When you look at the pedigree, when you look at the pedigree of the support staff, and when I talk about governmental support, the Governor General of Antigua and Barbuda, Sir Rodney Williams, who himself was a former sports minister, and Lady Williams, and their foundation, Harlow Foundation, they are also behind the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons. And so the Falcons have been able to put together a real proper squad. Fabian Allen, Hayden Walsh Jr., Brandon King. You got some in young Kelvin Pittman. There's a new sensation, David Brook, and I want you to pencil his name down. His name is Joel Andrew, 17 years old. Joel Andrew, from the island of Antigua and Barbuda. He's going to be the next sensation coming out from the West Indies. And given the opportunity, he could be playing for the West Indies in 2 years' time. And if he has a good season, he went to Ireland with the academy, scored 100. He scored 100 in the Under-19 World Cup. And he's a player that I'm saying to you that you have to be able to keep your eyes on. Joel Andrew, that's a name that I'll be touting for. So just write that name down. I'm not telling you, that a lot of things are going to be happening, but he's excited.
Great talking to you, Vernon. I can understand why you're Antigua's #1 sportscaster. You're like Gary Lineker, but without the crisp, the endorsement from the Crisp Company, and everything else that Gary Lineker's doing. Vernon, pleasure to talk to you. Looking forward to seeing you later on.
Hey, God bless you, David, and thanks for the opportunity, man. Remember, right, the Antigua and Barbuda Falcons, we're in it to win it.
Well, that's the CPL coming up later in the year. Thanks, Vernon.